Cat and Mouse appeared in Ted Hughes' second book of poems, Lupercal, in 1960, and is one of the number of animal poems to be found in the collection. In it, Hughes anthropomorphizes a mouse who is cowering at the top of a hill on a hot day, trying to hide itself in grass which has been grazed to stubble by flocks of sheep. It is stuck in limbo as it surveys the landscape unfolding in front of it, desperate to make a run for it, but simultaneously fearful to break cover, as it might be pounced on by a cat. Hughes finishes the poem by observing that mice and humans are little different from one another in this harsh and unforgiving natural world. He suggests that it doesn't matter whether we have 2 feet or 4. We all feel compelled to pray for our own survival, whether that is to God that we may be spared disease or war, for example, or to an indiscriminate higher power that we won't be eaten by a cat. As with other poems in this collection, e.g. Snowdrop, Hughes uses cat and mouse to explore themes such as the brutality of nature, life and death, and power and survival. This very brief poem comprises 3 stanzas of 3, 4, and 3 lines respectively. It is written in free verse, which means that it has neither a fixed metrical or rhythmic structure, e.g. iambic pentameter, di-dum, 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 nor a set rhyme scheme. Although there is no established metrical structure, Hughes creates a heavy rhythm with a preponderance of stressed syllables, e.g. sheep-cropped summit and 5-mile prospect, to evoke not only the stifling and energy-sapping heat of the day, but also the way the mouse is stuck in a state of limbo, weighed down by its crushing anxiety. Hughes also has the ends and beginnings of stanzas share the same poetic line, which, not allowing the reader to pause, gives the poem a sense of urgency. This, combined with the frequent caesurae, which force the reader to pause, creates a choppy, tense rhythm of stops and starts that evokes the mouse's internal conflict as it tries to decide whether to flee or to remain. Rather than employing end rhyme, Hughes instead relies on complex sound patterning techniques within and across lines, such as alliteration, e.g. cropped and crouched and hummed its heat heavy, consonants, e.g. sheep cropped and farms hummed, and assonance, e.g. mouse and crouched and old and alter, to create cohesion and musicality and to enhance the poem's atmosphere. Hughes's diction is plain and simple throughout, and many of the words he uses are monosyllabic. In an interview with Egbert Fass in 1977, he revealed that he had made a deliberate effort to find a simple, concrete language with no words in it over which I didn't have complete ownership. A limited language, but authentic to me. A good example of this is the presence of his signature compound adjectives, e.g. sheep-cropped and heat-heavy, that he has created himself. The title, Cat and Mouse, evokes the constant pursuit, near captures and narrow escapes that characterise the mouse's life as it tries to stay one step ahead of its predator. Note how, even though the cat is not physically present in the poem, it might just as well be, as it is always there in the mind of the mouse, controlling its behaviour and becoming the focus of its prayers. The poem begins with the bucolic scene of pastureland on a hot day. On the sheep-cropped summit, under hot sun. There's a feeling, however, that this may not be the idyll that it first appears. Not only does it remind us that animals are programmed to search for food, but the plosive alliteration of the repeated sound in sheep cropped, the hissing sibilants in sheep, summit and sun, the plosive consonants of the repeated t sound in cropped, summit and hot, and the assonance of the repeated sounds in summit, under and sun, also give the line a harsher undertone. The subject of the poem, the mouse, is not introduced until the next line, as it crouched, staring out the chance it dared not take. Indeed, the verb crouched suggests that the mouse is cowering, trying to keep itself as low as possible in the grass, which is too short to provide any cover, while the sun beats down relentlessly on this already ill-at-ease creature. It stares, its eyes wide open, with both fear and vigilance, desperate to move to a place of greater shelter, where it may not become food, or at the very least a hunting trophy for a cat. But its instinct tells it that at this moment in time, it is not a risk it is willing to take. Note the caesurae in this stanza and the way in which the third line is truncated to only 4 syllables to create a disjointed rhythm which enhances the mouse's sense of discomfort. The second stanza begins halfway across the line where the first left off, which provides less of a pause than you would normally get between stanzas, and the way that these 2 lines effectively share the same poetic line suggests the pressure and sense of urgency that the mouse feels. Time and a world too old to alter, the 5-mile prospect, woods, villages, farms hummed its heat-heavy stupor of life. The phrase time and a world too old to alter suggests that the world is governed by nature's ancient and immutable laws. The mouse will always be the cat's prey because it has always been so. Hughes now zooms the focus out from the mouse to the 5-mile prospect, or extensive view of the landscape that unfolds before it from its high vantage point. The way that he includes villages and farms as well as woods in the asyndetic list that follows suggests that he believes that the mighty human is just as much subject to these laws as the puny mouse, as they all hummed its heat-heavy stupor of life. Note how the reader is primed for the onomatopoeia of the verb hummed by the preceding consonants of the sound in farms, which is then echoed by the alliteration of the aspirated sound in heat, heavy. The word stupor means a state of near unconsciousness or insensibility, and communicates the way in which the mouse's fear seems to paralyse it. The combination of the repeated as though there is a huffing sound from exertion, with the stressed syllables, enhances the feeling of the mouse, as well as of mankind, of being crushed by the weight of merely existing. Note how once again Hughes ends his stanza with a half line of 4 syllables, stupor of life, which emphasises the phrase. The poem, as with time, moves inexorably on as the third stanza once more begins halfway across the poetic line to take up where the second stanza left off. Whether to 2 feet or 4, how are prayers contracted, muses Hughes. Here the poet is comparing mankind on 2 feet with mice who are on 4, and he comes to the exclaimed conclusion, perhaps in an epiphany, that we are little different from one another after all, in that an inescapable part of being alive is the constant evasion of death, whether that is due to disease or war, for example, or due to the hunting instincts of a cat. Note that the verb contracted has more than one meaning here. Not only does it mean to enter into a formal and binding agreement like one does when saying a prayer, i.e. if you do X, I'll do Y, but it also means to become smaller and suggests that, in the grand scheme of things, all living creatures are similarly inconsequential. Hughes finishes the poem by arguing that whether we are man or mouse, we all pray to a higher power. Whether in God's eye or the eye of a cat, that we may survive the brutality of the natural world in which we live. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos on English language topics and exam techniques and English literature texts.